Good afternoon, beautiful people. So, take my name tag off. So, I am coming on today because I want to start the month of June and I am going to talk about mental health. So, first on my agenda, I wanted to talk about what I think initially caused my mental health problems, how I got diagnosed, um, um, what brought about the reasoning behind me thinking something might have been the matter, what I did to resolve it, and things of that sort. So, for the next 4 weeks, I will be giving you a different topic regarding mental health. And I encourage you all, if you might even slightly think that you have something abnormal going on, that you do seek help, because there are a lot of people committing suicide and self-harming and all of these other things because they feel like they have nobody to talk to, or they don't know how to, I guess, process the things that they think about or get help the way that they need that help. So I strongly encourage you all to speak up, do something, take your health, not just your physical health, but your mental health in your own hands and do something about it. So, I'm kind of detached from this story. And that's not to say that it's not a story that affects me very much. It's just one of those things that happened to me. I processed it and I've moved on from it. So I won't shed a tear. I won't get upset. I don't get um sad or anything about it when I tell this story. And I've censored it for so long for fear of hurting people close to me, because it is such a close and personal situation. And I guess there are some people around me that didn't want me to talk about it and all of this other stuff. And I just feel like it's something that I want to share with you guys. And this is something I want to share in general, because I think it's very important to knowing who I am and how I've gotten to where I have gotten to. I am a bit distracted, so if you see me not looking at you, it's because I'm currently waiting on my patient to get back to her house so that I can do my work and then head back out of here to head home. So, we're going to tell the story in the meantime while I'm wasting time. So, um, I'm trying to figure out if I want to just be brutally honest or if I want to kind of censor some things for the protection of other people. I don't know. I guess I'm just gonna tell it like it is. It is what it is. If somebody get mad, then they just get mad, and I can't control other people. I can only control myself. So my name is Notorious Coleman. I am a 29-year-old female, and from the ages, I say from 4 to about 7, and then off and on till about 12, and then from 12 to 16 really heavily, I was molested. I was molested by two different people, both of them being male figures, one of them being in my family. um my mother was not with my father. I was very close with my father during this time, but it's just one of those things that people kind of sort of figure it out, but when they ask you, it feels like most people typically deny it. And even looking back now, I don't really know why I denied it when I was asked, but it was more so out of fear of seeing what would happen if I did confirm that it was going on. So, maybe around like 3 or 4, I have memories of my stepfather driving. I was molested by my stepfather and one of my aunt's boyfriends. Um, I have memories of like my stepfather driving and him sitting me on his lap, and I don't know what was going on. Either he was like touching on me or something of that sort, but they're really vague memories. Like I said, I was about 3 or 4 when that happened, but the most graphic portion of it probably took place from like age 11, 12ish till about 15, 16. And during that point in time, I was heavily molested. My mom was pregnant with my younger sister, and it became really bad, especially when she was pregnant. My mom worked a night shift. It was second shift, I believe, from like 2 to 10. So I really didn't see her. By the time she got home, I was sleeping. By the time I was getting up for school, she was, still asleep. I was pretty self-sufficient as a child. And I actually became like one of those really bad teenagers that ran away and spent a lot of time with boys and did what I wanted to do. And I stole money. And I did all of this because I wanted someone to pay attention to me. I wanted someone to notice that all of these things were going on. And I say around the time that I was about 7, 6, maybe 5, 6, or 7, my grandmother asked me, was my stepfather touching me? And I was like, no, no, I'm okay. Nothing's happening. And I cannot tell you why I lied. Especially during that point, I don't even think I had a reason to lie. I don't believe I was ever threatened to keep quiet and not tell anybody. It was just one of those things that I kind of felt ashamed of, but I don't know why I felt ashamed of it, if that makes sense. This went on for years, and sometimes it went on where my mom was in the next room over and was sleeping, things like that. But it all came to an end when it was like Easter weekend, and this was like maybe 2 weeks before my birthday. And my sister from my father's side was over. We had some different family members and stuff over, and my stepfather did not come home. And so I guess my mom called and called and called, and he didn't answer and didn't come home. And then for whatever reason, he decides to leave on her voicemail confessing what he had done to me, basically that he had touched me and all of these other things. And my mom asked me in private, what did I want to do? And I feel like that's a very, very, what's the word? Crude, maybe? That's a very heavy thing to ask someone that has been hiding something like this for so long, and for you to finally be in the know, and your solution was to ask me, what did I want to do? And at 15, I couldn't fathom what to really say. And by that time, my relationship with my father had begun to deteriorate, and I had a little sister that was maybe about 2, if that. And I didn't want her to not have a father, so I was like, well, I don't want to tell anybody. So she was like, okay, well, we're not going to say anything, and that was supposed to have been that. So later on that night, I believe he came home. I don't know. I was asleep. I had to go to school the next morning. I believe he came home, and that next day he got up as if, everything was normal and proceeded to go to work. And instead of him going to work, he went to the police station and told this story again about everything he had done to me and confessed and everything. So I went on to school thinking nothing more of it, and that, the situation was over and done with. And then later on that evening, I went home as usual after school, got my little sister because I would take care of her while my mom was at work. And maybe around like 7 or 8 p.m., the police come, and my grandmother comes downstairs and say that the police are here for me. And so they're talking to me, asking me about what happened, and I'm just like not really saying anything because I told my mom I wouldn't say anything. And they're like, oh, it's okay, your mom already told us, that everything that happened, and she said it was okay for you, you to talk to us. So once they told me that my mom said that, it was okay and that my mom already told them everything, I started giving them the details of what happened, not knowing that they lied. And at this point, my mother hadn't even talked to them, I guess. So, I was removed from out of the basement with my mother, and I went upstairs to stay with my grandmother. And he never came home after that. He stayed in jail. And so that was like April, the end of April. And I think maybe June, either June or July, he ended up dying in jail before we ever went to trial or anything like that. So he died in jail, and I don't know under what circumstances. I have my theories behind what happened, and I heard other things that conflict with my theories. I don't know. But, you hear a lot of things of what people do to people when somebody is in jail for touching a child and things like that. So that's my theory. So after that, my relationship with my mother just deteriorated because it seemed like she blamed me for everything that happened, for his death, for the molestation, for my sister no longer having a father. Like, it felt like all the blame was on me, even though I was a child. And I couldn't control these things. These aren't things that I could have controlled. And I felt angry at her because she was, one, mad at me, and two, she put it in my hands to make such a impactful decision on something in my life. I feel like as my mother, once you found out, you should have wanted to protect me by all means, but yet you were still wanting to stand by this man regardless of how it made me felt. So our relationship was pretty much non-existent, and it was even worse because my mother never really raised me, I guess, per se. I was pretty much predominantly raised by my aunts and my grandmother. My mother got married to her husband around, I was 5. Then she moved out the house. She came back when she was pregnant with my sister around 12 or so. So, there were years that she was not in the household with me. So, fast forward, I think I was in my senior year of high school, and at that point, my mother had never been to prom, and so she wanted to give me like this big prom experience, and I wasn't really too keen on going to prom because it just wasn't my type of thing, but I agreed to please her. And so she went on this quest to make me have a great prom, and got a limo, and paid for my date stuff and all of this other stuff. So I had a pretty nice prom, for what it was. Still, I don't think it was something that I probably would have partaken on my own accord. And so once I went to college, she kind of helped pay for my room my first year. And so after that, my mom just kind of, to me, this is all my opinion, it kind of seemed like she felt like I owed her something in life. Like everything I did, I needed to owe her something. So we had a really, really rocky relationship, and I went through therapy trying to figure out, why. Like, I would see my mother's name on a caller ID and just get repulsed by it. Like, oh, like, what does she want? And I didn't want to spend the rest of my life like that, like getting truly annoyed just by looking at her name on a caller ID. That was not a life I wanted to experience. So I went to therapy, and I went to therapy week by week, trying to figure out, how to mend that relationship. And me and my mother had a talk, and there are still to this day some things that I don't know if they're answered in her mind or not, or if everything is completely resolved. We do have a much better relationship now. This is still very much a touchy subject in my family, and for whatever reason, it seems to want to be swept under the rug. But I just can't allow that to happen, because I come from a household where the predominant, grandchildren, most of us are females. And we're surrounded. My grandmother had 4 girls. So all of the males pretty much that are in our household are not blood related to us. They're through marriage and of that sort. So anything could happen to my younger cousins and my younger siblings and things like that. So I share my story, and I try not to sugarcoat it, because I want them to know that you need to say something, because I feel bad because I didn't, because I have no idea why or if my stepfather ever touched anybody else. I have no idea. And I never, got to confront him in court or get resolution on the case of him actually telling the truth. I have no idea what he actually said on my mother's voicemail, or what even, I guess, came across his mind to actually come clean about it, other than, I guess he thought I had someone trying to kill him. I guess that's the story I heard, that he thought I had someone trying to kill him because someone was shooting and wherever he was, so he thought I had somebody trying to kill him, which I wasn't. I had never even really told anybody at that point, so not sure where he got that from. But I don't know, I guess it was nothing but somebody higher up that put it on his conscience to allow him to come clean about the whole situation and to finally let it air out. And the issue that I kind of have now, like, after, that time, during the time when I was being molested, was also the time that I started picking up weight really quickly. And this was around the time my periods became irregular, and I just knew something was, wrong with my body. And during the times where I was being molested, I would purposely try to do things to deter him from wanting to touch me or anything. Like, I would not shower, I would purposely not change clothes just so I can stink, and it was like nothing would deter him from touching me or anything like that. So, I don't know. So, even before he told anybody, I kind of made it up in my mind that I was going to do what I could to get away from my household. I would run away. I would steal. I don't know, I would just do all sorts of things. And I was typically a really, really rambunctious teenager. I took my mom's car. Whatever you can think of, I probably did it during those years. And when it was time for me to go away to high school, I wanted to pick a high school that was super, super far from my household so I wouldn't have to be bothered with anybody. And so I wanted to go out south, and my grandmother wouldn't allow me to. So I picked a school the farthest north that I could, which actually ended up being a really good school. Lane Tech, if you're familiar with Chicago. That's the high school I went to. And so I would have this long commute every day, and that would buy me time to not ever have to be in the house, and I was okay with that. And so I knew once I went to college, I had no intention of ever staying in Chicago. And I left Chicago at 18 for college in Atlanta, and I have never lived back there since then. And it's a really, really hard time for me to go back there. I love my family to death. I truly do, but it's a hard place to go back and visit because there are such bad memories there for me, and it's kind of hard to see them stuck. It just feels like my family is just stuck. I don't even know what other way to say it. It's like I've progressed in life, and it's just not a place I want to be. So I don't go very often. I maybe go once or once a year or every 2 years or something like that. But it's not very often at all. Not as I guess most people would probably visit their family. And every year around like Christmas, from like the months of November to about mid-January, I would go through this serious depression, and I could not figure out why it would happen, and that was what originally prompted me to try to seek help. So I originally, after everything came out about my stepfather molesting me, I ended up in group therapy as part of the state plan, I guess, to get me some help. And I didn't really care for group therapy. I felt like the other kids that were in it were kind of immature, and it wasn't quite the same situation. Like, I remember one girl was raped. I don't know, they weren't very calm. So, and then they kind of treated us like kids. Now, granted, we were kids, but I don't think we were like kids. Mind you, it was probably like 15, 16, 17 at the time, but I pretty much go just to make keychains and to talk, but not really. I will listen more than anything. So, once I got to college, I attempted therapy again, and that kind of worked to make me get over the molestation part, but not to rebuild my relationship with my mother. So once I got to grad school, that's what I wanted my therapy to focus on. So we kind of rebuilt that relationship. And then so I don't know, I feel like this video is getting long already. So that's pretty much my molestation story. And to this day, I don't believe my little sister knows. And I often get told by my family not to talk about it, not to bring it up, because it might hurt her. She doesn't know what happened. And my sister now is 17, I believe. And she still doesn't know the circumstances of why her father is no longer here, or what happened to him, as far as I know. and that caused a strain on me and her relationship. I don't talk to her at all, and it's not out of spite or anything. I don't blame her or anything. It's just, it's hard to have a relationship with her when I can't be completely honest and truthful to her. And it's taking a lot in me, I guess, right now to talk about this, because I know the overwhelming majority of my family do not want me to talk about this at all. Even if I reshare something on Facebook like I did a few months ago, maybe around December-ish, my mother got upset, and it was just something about molestation, about, people talking up if something happens, and I reshared it on my Facebook. It wasn't my words or it was just a random picture I saw. I agreed to it and I reshared it. And my mother got upset, and I guess she contacted my grandmother. My grandmother called me telling me I was wrong and all of these other things. And it was hard to hear, but I had to stand up for myself, because I cannot, as an adult, censor myself anymore to please anyone else. It's not my problem that they want to hide what happens if I don't want to hide what happened. Like, I'm an open book. If somebody wants to know what happened, I would gladly share my story, especially if it would prevent somebody else from going through the same situation. I was touched repeatedly for years, and it did mental damage to me, a lot of damage to me, and I'm still at the age of 29 trying to undo some of that. And this isn't something that can be swept under the rug. So many other people in my family had also been molested, and nobody wants to talk about it, and therefore the cycle continues. But I refuse to be that person to allow it to continue. It's not going to, not on my watch. Even if I suspect it, I talk to my little cousins about it and make sure, if something happened, be sure, you can tell me. Like, I'm always here for y'all. I know I'm not physically there, but I'm only a phone call away. If you can't call me, message me on Facebook, whatever. Find your way to get to me. And I have a little cousin that I'm very, very, very close to. I see her as my little protege. Like, she started a YouTube channel and everything, and I'll leave her channel down in the description if you ever want to go over and support her. And she doesn't really talk to many people in our family. She's just a really quiet girl, but whenever I'm around, it's like we bond, and she's just so talkative to the point where I'm like, girl, be quiet. But like, I love my family to death. It's just, I cannot visit them in Chicago. I can't go back to that same home where these things happen to me over and over again. And I can't build that relationship with my sister if they want me to censor, what I say and who I say it to. And it's okay to tell certain people, as long as these people don't know. Like, I can't live my life like that anymore. And so that did so much damage to, I don't know if that stopped or not. That did so much damage where I was seeking love in all the wrong places, and talking to this boy and talking to that boy, and it was just ridiculous. And it shouldn't have to be like that. Somebody should be able to stand up, tell somebody, and deal with the situation at hand. And nobody should be, at a young age, asked to make such a life-changing decision on something like that. So it was hard. It was very hard. And I look back now, and like, some of the closest people in my life, they've also been molested. And it's not something that I'm like seeking out people that have been molested so we can have this thing in common. But it's just crazy to me, like, how often this happens to people and nobody says anything, or they wait till they're an adult to finally speak out and say something, when it shouldn't have to be like that. And it doesn't have to be like that. I don't know. So that's basically, in a nutshell, about how my molestation started my demise, I guess, to my mental health issues. It got me feeling like I wasn't myself, and I was looking for love in all the wrong places, and I would get severely depressed because I missed my family, but yet I didn't want to go home to visit them. It was just a lot. So, I don't know. Until next week, I want you to be you on purpose. Be blessed.